By the end of an entire year of rejection by casting directors, my confidence balloon was lying dead and lifeless on the floor. When I confided in the people I love most, that I thought that I would never have the career I wanted, the relationship I wanted, the life I wanted, unless I was skinny, their response was to hug me and tell me that I was beautiful, but that did nothing to revive my confidence. My parents couldn't revive my confidence for me, and neither could my friends. This time, I'd have to do it myself. So, when faced with the challenge of boosting my own confidence so that I could do what I loved on stage, I just quit. I stopped auditioning. I got a corporate job to pay the bills. I developed an eating disorder. I was miserable. And in an effort to stay creative and feel less alone, I got on the internet and started sharing my stories of what it was like to be an awkward plus-size girl in New York City. Forbes.com says that confidence is the outcome of the thoughts that we think and the actions we take. As my Instagram and YouTube audience gained a following, I went through a process that overhauled and rebuilt my self-confidence. Through that process, I learned 4 key steps to building self-confidence. I'd like to share those with you today. Sound good? Yeah. Step 1, identify your perceived obstacle. Step 2, imagine what your life would look like if your obstacle disappeared. Step 3, address your perceived obstacle. Step 4, choose to live the life you imagine today. That was a lot to take in, right? All right, let's break it down. Step 1, identify your perceived obstacle. So for me, I thought that my confidence would greatly improve if I lost a bunch of weight. That may not be the thing for you, and that is okay. In order to identify what your perceived obstacle, I invite you to finish this sentence. My life would be perfect if... So what is it? What is that thing that you are using as an excuse to opt out of the life that you really want? Now comes the fun part. Step 2, imagine what your life would look like if that obstacle disappeared. According to a Harvard psychology study, the brain actually can't differentiate between a real memory and an imagined one. This is why visualization is so important. I'll give you an example. While you think about what your life would look like if your obstacle was gone. So, I used to fantasize about myself as a skinny person. I've never been skinny in my life, but I was obsessed with skinny CeCe and the life that she would live. In my head, skinny CeCe would travel the world. Skinny CeCe would wear what she wanted, not what would cover her up the most. She would get up in the morning and dress without shame. Skinny CeCe would do what I consider the most vulnerable act I could think of. Skinny CeCe would put a full body photo on her dating profile app. Now it's your turn. What does your life look like without your perceived obstacle? Are you sitting in a big corner office after a promotion? Are you boarding the plane to your dream vacation? While you think about that, let's move on to step 3. Address your perceived obstacle. Now, I am a firm believer in hiring therapists and coaches when it's time to level up. So when it was my turn to level up, I hired my first ever therapist, and I immersed myself into the world of online and body positivity. I decided, in order to address my perceived obstacle, I needed to remove skinny as a goal altogether. Now, before you say that I'm promoting obesity, I need you to hear me out for just a second. I was a 10-pound baby. So maybe, just maybe, I came into this world as a big girl, and it just is what it is. Yes, we live in a world that values the scale over the soul, that values youth over wellness, that values looking good over feeling good. But in a world like that, I chose to go against the grain. I chose to stand up for myself and embrace health as a practice, not a pant size. I decided that healthy living as a daily practice was my goal, and consistency was my measure of success. How will you address your perceived obstacle? Will you research scholarships while you figure out how to get into your dream school? Will you reach out to a therapist about past traumas that are bothering you? I'm gonna be really candid here. Step 3 can take a long time to figure out. So while we work on step 3, we're gonna get started on step 4 at the very same time. Step 4, choose to live the life you imagine today. What you're probably thinking is, CeCe, how can I live the life I imagine when I still have my obstacle, right? I can't do that. It's not true. You don't have to wait on your perceived obstacle, just like I didn't have to wait on my weight. Remember my skinny CeCe imaginary life? What did skinny CeCe do? Skinny CeCe traveled the world. Here I am, traveling the world. I'm not skinny. Skinny CeCe wore what she wanted. Here I am, wearing what I want. And I'm not skinny. Skinny CeCe put a full body photo on her dating profile app. Here I am. Full body photo, dating app, not skinny. How will you choose to live the life you want right now? Nothing lights me up more than when I see people shouting me out on Instagram and sharing their stories of self-confidence. As you embark on your journey of self-confidence, I'd like to remind you of one thing. I started my journey because of my desire to stand on stage and do what I want. So, I identified my perceived obstacle. I imagined what my life would look like if that obstacle disappeared. I made a plan to address my perceived obstacle, and then I chose to start living the life I imagine right away. And guess what? Here I am, standing before you, doing what I love on stage.